of the day. I'm joined by the one, the only Shaun Whorton.
Hello.
Pentester, former head of content development at Hack the Box. Hiya, Shaun. How you doing? You okay?
Hello. Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Paul. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's Friday, so it can only go upwards from here.
Yeah, indeed, indeed.
So, Shaun, before I get into the things I want to sort of talk about with you, who are you? In your own words.
How long have you got? I'm Shaun. I'm currently a senior pen tester for a firm somewhere. As Paul's alluded to already, I used to be the head of content at Hack the Box for a couple of years, just under, which I'll be going into quite a bit of detail on later in the stream. But that's who I am. That's where I've been. Always been interested in computers and technology, and just been a box standard nerd ever since 5 or 6 years old. Taking computers apart, breaking them, putting them back together. Built my first website when I was about 9, using Microsoft Front Page, of all horrible programs to use.
How vulnerable was it?
Oh my God!
You don't have to answer that.
Paul, I mean, we're talking like, yeah, really, really bad, really badly coded. Needed some major AppSec development. Went to uni a few times, got a few degrees, worked at GCHQ after uni in offensive cyber operations. Can't really talk much about that, but that was
the
cool. But done a lot of teaching as well. Taught in secondary schools, colleges, universities, teaching cybersecurity to as young as 11 all the way up to let's say 21, 22 years old. So quite an eclectic background, I think.
Yeah, it's not a I guess a traditional path into what you're doing. Let's put it like that. It's a mix of everything.
Yeah, I think so. I think when I was teaching, certainly in the olden days, then in the earlier days at least, I was doing sort of pen testing on the side, and sort of doing it mates rates, and people who would tell people that they know, word of mouth sort of thing, but wouldn't ever call it a fully fledged business. But yeah, I wouldn't say I got into pen testing the traditional route, even though done certifications like OSCP and a few from eLearn Security, and obviously the CEH as well. But I wouldn't say it's your traditional route now.
No, but you made it.
I made it. I'm here, living the dream.
Here you are. So, I mean, just wanted to talk initially about Hack the Box. So, hopefully, a few of the viewers on here are fairly junior, want to be in your shoes one day. And right now they're on things like Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, Root Me, trying to name a few others, but I can't right now. It's Friday, I'm a bit tired. There are more out there, just for full disclosure. I mean, if you were to start again, where would you start? Where would you see yourself start, like in the beginning?
That's a good question. I think if we're talking about from the very beginning, I don't think Hack the Box is a good place to start with from the very beginning. I think if you want to build up those fundamental skills of, let's say, using a Linux terminal, or want to know some basic cybersecurity know-how, I think Try Hack Me is a really good place to start. I think they take a more hand-holded guide. I think they do it I think they do what they do fairly well, to be honest, which is produce a really basic introduction to an alternative operating system which you might not have used before, like Linux. And I would just go through their easy, they call them rooms, don't they? Their easy rooms, and learn the fundamentals of Bash, how to do a simple Nmap scan. I think that's a really, really good place to start. And then once you've built up your confidence, your knowledge, and when you get to the point where you are, just absolutely destroying the Try Hack Me rooms in your sleep with one hand tied behind your back with one eye closed, then I would really recommend Hack the Box. I might be a little bit biased saying this, but I think they're content is top notch. I think it's a really good yardstick of quality in terms of assessing your skills, both in a sense of an employer. So, for example, and you'll know this yourself, Paul, when you've got candidates coming to you and they say, I'm rank 40 something on Hack the Box, or I'm omniscient, you'll probably get a good gauge for how that candidate would probably fit in an organization. And I think if you're working through Hack the Box and you're knocking out easy machines, medium machines, I think you are good to go pretty much.
Yeah, you can start maybe. I mean, is it true that like some of the medium level machines on Hack the Box are like sort of OSCP level? Not to say that they're exactly the same as OSCP labs, but are they similar sort of level as OSCP?
Funny story, really. When I was doing my OSCP exam, I'll try not to give too much away, because of NDAs and whatnot. But I was in the exam, and I was a bit like, when you have an out of body experience, and I thought, I've done this before. I've done this machine before, and it was an actual a Hack the Box machine, which has obviously been created based on this exam machine. And it was because of that because of that Hack the Box machine actually passed my exam. Just because I would probably already got it, but I got there a lot quicker than I would have done.
Saved you some time.
Absolutely, yeah. In terms of difficulty, I would say probably go for the older. I mean, it's been years since I did OSCP, but I would probably say stick to the easy and probably medium machines. I know they've updated the content to have a bit more Active Directory. I'm just laughing at the comments because I know they're from. Thanks for that. But I would say easy medium's probably a good place to start, especially the older machines. So I'm trying to remember the names. October, Legacy. There's a really good list compiled by TJ Null, which I think he still maintains to this day. So I think if you're looking to get into, if you're wanting to use Hack the Box as a bit of a primer for OSCP, go and, just put to Twitter or Google, TJ Null OSCP Hack the Box, and you'll get a nice, lovely spreadsheet for you to hack away on.
That's quite useful. So yeah, it's good practice. And then obviously there's the VIP section, I believe. Does I know Hack the Box does this. Does any other like online labs do something similar where they've got labs that are released? Everyone knows how to hack them, sort of. There's YouTube videos how to hack them. That's what the VIP is, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you're going for like OSCP or any sort of industry qual, I would really recommend VIP. It just means you can spin up any machine you want whenever you want. You don't have to share that machine. So if you've got the free plan, you've got to share it sometimes with thousands of different people, and you've got to put up with machine reverts all the time, and it's really laborious. I think it's still fairly cheap, VIP. I think it's maybe £7 or £8 a month. But in terms of value added to your experience and the skills that you're going to learn, it's money well spent.
Yeah, priceless.
Yeah.
And then going on to, so this is your total career. So we're interviewing Shaun. We're not just talking about Hack the Box, of course. What would you say would be your proudest moment? Because you've done a lot. What's your proudest moment?
In terms of a professional point of view?
Professional, like throughout your career. Can be in teaching, can be whatever.
I think a few pop out. I don't know which one probably to choose out of all of them, but landing a job at GCHQ, that experience will stay with me forever, and hopefully one day I'll be able to tell my children about that. That was completely eye-opening, and one of the 2 times in my life where I suffered burnout. I was really young, doing 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. All I've got to live for is work. And 2 years later, it hits you, and you physically can't look at a computer anymore because it's going to make you feel sick. But in terms of all of that negativity aside, just being able to see that, see that at that such a high level, that, I mean, yeah, just absolutely amazing. And in terms of getting through that interview process, I think there's, more hurdles than an Olympic track. It was crazy.
I couldn't imagine.
Getting into that, young lad from Barnsley, it's amazing. In terms of teaching, proudest moment, I can remember one results day. So as a teacher, like results day, GCSE A-level results day, going in, there's a sense of, there's a bit of trepidation in the air, there's excitement, there's worry, there's all these emotions going. And then the students come in, whether it's GCSE A-level, graduates, undergraduates, whatever, it's really intense. But when they open that envelope and they see the result of years of sometimes really hard work, sometimes when they don't want to do it, and they see that they've got this grade, and as the teacher or the lecturer or whatever capacity you're in, that you help them get there, it's a really, really cool feeling. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
So that's really proud. Just getting the students to where they need to be.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of Hack the Box, and what I'm most proud of, I created a Pro Lab, which I see posts about that pretty much every day on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Are you allowed to say which one, or is it hush hush?
No, that's fine. It's been out for over a year now. It's called Dante. It was created with beginners in mind, even though it's probably not been received as a beginner lab. It's aimed at people who want to take certifications or learn the skills, I should say, because skills are way more important than a piece of paper. Learning the skills, that are associated with OSCP, to learn basically, instead of forking out thousands and thousands of pounds, which offset charge. Hack the Box is relatively cheap, and dare I say, a lot better put together.
Apparently, it has its own T-shirt.
It does have its own T-shirt. Yeah, if you go to hackthebox.store, it's there.
Can I get it signed?
Send it to me, Paul. I'll even write a personal message on for you.
We're here. So you heard that here first, folks. This is a question I like to ask a lot of people who come on here, and it can go either way, but I'm just going to ask it. What's your biggest mistake in your career? Can be technical, can be like a professional mistake you made. But what is the
biggest professional mistake?
Can be technical, could be that you wired something wrong and the whole thing blew up.
remember the first machine. So as part of head of content at Hack the Box, so it was my job to do things like QA the machines that we release every week, and make sure that they do what they say on the tin. Make sure it's exploitable, and there's no unintended routes. And I remember the first machine I ever released went out. I was really nervous, and I was actually out at a party of release night, and I thought, no, it's fine. I've tested this thing for like 4 weeks. It's fine. So you can probably tell what I'm about to say. So it gets to release night. Discord's going absolutely crazy. Thousands of people going. First box of the year, which it was. So I started Hack the Box in December, and then there was a bit of a lull over Christmas, and this was the first machine of the year, and I was out at a party. Long story short, the machine was broken. Not so much broken, but there was an unintended route for the technical people in the crowd. I forgot to disable SMB version 1, so there was an exploit for that called Eternal Blue. So it's just a one-click pwn, and I ended up coming home from the party. I remember frantically booking an Uber and just fixing it as soon as I could, and yeah, massive egg on my face.
I mean, in terms of mistakes, though, it's not a bad one.
It's not mission critical. I felt really, really bad for doing it, because I thought, come on, let's just get a really good first release out and take it from there. But it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, and I suppose you know all about Eternal Blue now.
You know what? I never released a machine with SMB version 1 enabled, funnily enough. But yeah, that was probably the biggest mistake at Hack the Box. Trying to think of something else.
Anything? I mean, if it's last week, then you don't have to say it. But if there's anything in like your pen test career or
other than
I know it's a difficult one.
There was one time where I was testing a friend's. So my friend owns a very small firm in Sheffield. I'll not say what he does, but the very small endpoints, very small number of endpoints. I wonder who's behind all these comments. Very small number of endpoints, like 2 domain controllers, and maybe like 50 machines. And the only thing in the scope of the work was don't take it out, don't take down don't cause a denial of service. So I'm there, I'm doing my thing, find something that I think is exploitable, and long story short, it's funnily enough, it was vulnerable to Eternal Blue, which is from the machine earlier, and I completely knocked one of the domain controllers offline for about, let's say, half an hour. So to say my mate was a bit pissed off is a bit of an understatement. Never did that again.
I mean, you're clued up about Eternal Blue now.
I am an expert, yeah. An expert when it's.
Can't see you doing that again.
Definitely not. No. I also wrote a blog, I think it was last week, about a test that I've done recently. But apparently I put in too much information. So that's been taken down now, even though any sort of PII was completely redacted, and some of it was even made up just to get away from the main bits of the test. So that was a bit
too much info. Was it like, could you identify someone from it? Is that what you mean, or?
I don't think so. No, every bit of information was redacted. It basically just described the exploit chain, from going from LinkedIn scraping to password spraying and, running tools and all of things like that. But yeah, that was a bit of a mistake because made a few people unhappy, shall we say.
Yes, and we can't have that.
No, can't have unhappy people.
But the moral of the story is even people at your level sometimes make boo-boos. It's more how do you come back from that? So you made the mistake. How do you then say, right, I've made this mistake. How do you own it? I
think if you do one of the things that, so working at Hack the Box, I was in charge of a team, of people who, we delivered content, we tested content, we made content, and we made mistakes all the time. We work in tech, we work in cybersecurity and IT. We're not robots, we're not machines. We're human beings with emotions and prejudices and opinions and all of that, and we make mistakes. But the thing about that is you've got to own your mistake. You can't just say, well, that's, I've not made a mistake, it's not me. The best thing you can do is, in that situation, in my opinion, is say to your peers, to your manager, whatever, look, I made a mistake. I'm really sorry. I know this has impacted in X, Y, Z, but next time this is how I'm going to mitigate against that.
Yeah.
And I think that will be infinitely more appreciated rather than trying to play it down or ignore it or stick your head in the sand. Just own your mistakes. Just say, look, I messed up. I'm really sorry. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I've learned from this. This is what I'm going to do next time to mitigate against that. And I think that goes for any profession.
Yeah, anything. There's a classic, so it's from Henry Ford when he was still making cars. One of his managers did something, the whole production line was shut down, and it was costing them like millions of dollars, which at the time was a lot more than millions of dollars today.
Yeah.
It's a heck of a lot of money. And they fixed it, obviously, got it running again. And someone said to Henry Ford, he said, are you going to sack him? Because, production line was shut down. That's cost us millions.
Yeah.
He said, well, why would I sack someone who I've just spent millions of dollars training?
Yeah.
Because he won't make that mistake again.
No, that's really true. Yeah, I think when you make a mistake, as long as you're looking at it in a healthy way, you're not going to make that mistake again. And certainly in the same way you've done it. I think a really healthy approach is to understand where you messed up and how you're going to mitigate against that next time. I think that's a really healthy way to look at it. You know, you're going to feel bad for doing it, and that's probably a really good thing. 'Cause it shows that you care. It shows about the care. You care about the quality of the work you're doing, or you care about the quality of the end product that you're working on. And yeah, I think just own your mistakes, learn from them.
Unless you're doing the same mistake over and over and over, in which case,
oh yeah, you probably should be fired. Yeah, I think then that's probably a different conversation to have. But yeah, if you're making the same mistakes, that's a conversation to have.
Yeah, it's different. But yeah, if you make one mistake, as long as you learn from it, I think, and you can show to your boss, look, I'm sorry, I did this. This is what happened. It's entirely my fault. I didn't mean for this to happen, but this is what I'll do next time. And, you know, how do we sort it now so that problem's resolved? And it should be okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think working in an environment that enables you to have that sort of conversation as well is really important.
Yeah, relationships with managers. I mean, you've been a manager, per se. What would you say? Are you still a manager now? Before I go further,
I'm not. I will be when I've got people to manage. But as it stands, no. But I would say the overwhelming majority of my career, I've been in a managerial position or a senior position. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any? If there's one thing you'd say to people who are managing now for their teams, what would you tell them? It's like advice.
I think listen to the people you manage. So when I was teaching, you know, I think the biggest team I've managed probably about a team of 19, 20 members of staff. And I think it's just putting in. You've got to put the time in. You've got to put the time in. Not a case of. And I know we're working in, you know, post-COVID times or whatever you want to call this time, COVID times. But firing off a group email isn't making time. What is going to make time? And again, if you can, and I know it's difficult, but what I would do is put a slot in the diary saying, this is when we're going to meet. This is when we're going to sit down. We're going to have a coffee or a tea or whatever, and we're just going to chat about how your week's going, if there's any blockers, you know, what's been going well for you, taking an interest in your staff, in their personal life as much as you can. You know, trying to get away from the hierarchical, you know, I'm the boss, you're the whatever. At the end of the day, we're all people, you know, we all want the same thing, hopefully. And that's to be happy, you know? So I think connecting on a personal level, making time, showing that you care about the well-being of the people that you manage. You know, certainly when I was working at the Box, it was product oriented. So, you know, the end result was, you know, it was how you were judged, essentially.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always said to my staff, look, I don't care when you work. I care how much you're working. If you want to start work at midnight and finish at 6, fine. But the work better be done. You know, if I'm going to give you some flexibility, that's fine. Or if you know, if you want to take some time off to do personal things, that's absolutely fine as well. You know, maybe probably more often than I should have, but you know, whatever. I just tried to make sure that I was looking out for my members of staff, you know, and making sure that their well-being, their you know, their lives were, you know, work-life balance was tipped in the correct way. You know, sometimes went against the grain in terms of, you know, leave policy or whatever, but I knew that was going to come back in a really good way in terms of productivity, morale, being able to get on side with staff. I'm probably rambling a little bit here, so I'll just tie it up. I think just making time for your staff is the most important thing you can do. Showing an interest, showing that you care, showing that they're not just a number or an employee XYZ. They are a person, and I think as a manager, you've got to respect and empathize with that.
Yeah, and now we've got the interest of potential team members for your team. She said you're not a manager yet, but one day soon, hopefully, fingers crossed. What would you look for? I mean, yeah, what would you look for, regardless of position that you're hiring for? Is there a quality you look for?
So in terms of hiring, what qualities would I look for in a candidate?
Yeah, like personal qualities, maybe.
Yeah. So personal qualities, qualifications and all of that aside, I think especially in cybersecurity, you want somebody who is passionate about what they do. And I know passionate's a bit of a cliche at this point, but when I speak to them, I want them to get across to me that they love what they do. They've learned about the exploit that's just gone live on Twitter 3 hours ago. I want them to be, I want them to have the finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry. If I say, "Oh, did you hear about the latest Exchange exploit?" and they go, "No, that's probably a little bit of an alarm bell." I want to learn about the open source projects that they're working on. I want to learn about the new toolings that they've seen. I want a bit of a healthy debate. Do you prefer Kali or Parrot? Why? All of that. I just want to see that spark of, do you just like what you do, or do you really love what you do? Do
you live and breathe this, or is it just?
Yeah, absolutely. To some extent, yeah. And obviously,
or are you just in it for the money? I guess is the flip side to that.
Absolutely. Cybersecurity salaries are just so out of whack with everything else at the minute. As you'll know yourself, Paul, there's a supply and demand issue, shall we say, at the minute.
Yeah,
it's just bonkers. So I think that's something to be aware of, at least, that people will try to get in just for the cash. But I want to see some passion about what you're doing. I want to see an interest. Let's have a discussion about certifications versus experience versus, let's talk about what you feel about certification A versus certification B in terms of market relevance and skills.
Windows versus Linux.
Yeah. So what's your favorite tool for web fuzzing, for example, or how do you feel about Nessus, or all of that sort of thing. I think showing enthusiasm and a passion for what you do is definitely something I look for.
Yeah, and I think Strawberry Bob 18 has asked if it's a weird thing to demand, but I guess you wouldn't phrase it like, "Are you passionate about this?" You'd just go into questions about security, wouldn't you? You'd say, "Well, how do you feel about, I don't know, Linux versus Windows, or like I said, or this? How do you feel about Nessus, or how do you feel about Cert A versus Cert B?" You wouldn't say, "Are you passionate about the job?" because they'll just say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I disagree with Strawberry Bob 18 slightly. I've worked in multiple industries, and I'll probably pay for that later. I've worked in multiple industries, and it's not just cybersecurity where you're looking for passion. I've been in a position where I've been an assistant head teacher, and I'm hiring somebody for a head of department. I'm not just looking for somebody who wants the paycheck. I want somebody who's going to enthuse those students and provide a spark of interest in the classroom. I think that goes for any employee in most industries. I mean, obviously there are some where you probably couldn't care less if they're enthusiastic. You're here to do a job, and that's that. But I think in terms of most,
if you're a warehouse operative, or traffic
wardens.
Some of them are enthusiastic. I saw one on my way to work this morning. He was very happy to give tickets out.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
It's sadistic, but yeah.
I'm sure there's some traffic wardens there that are, sadistic, and probably. I should probably stop there.
Before you get a ticket.
Hopefully, you love what you do. But yeah,
just don't put one on the Peugeot 306 that's parked out back. Yeah. Cool. I think I've covered my main core of questions. We've gone over Hack the Box, about what you think, your greatest mistake, what you look for, what you'd advise to other line managers. I think just to wrap it up, what sort of advice would you give to a junior trying to break in today?
I think at the moment there's a bit of a transition happening in terms of trying to get a job. So the job that I'm in at the minute, I didn't send a single CV out for. I didn't send a single resume. No. Really, I'm really glad I can say that they came to me. It was part of somebody I knew in my network who approached me saying, "Do you want to work here?" Which has never happened before, and it was a weird feeling when it did. You mean I don't have to send this CV off a million times and get ghosted by recruiters? Not yourself, Paul. You were, we worked together. What was it, 3-4 years ago, and you were absolutely amazing. But in terms of like recruiters ghosting you, it's just crazy.
When you say ghosting, you mean you send your CV and hear nothing back? Or?
Yeah, so send a CV, or you get invited for an interview and you have the interview and you just don't get any feedback from either the recruiter or the employer, which is really disheartening because you've put a lot of time into that already and you're already invested. But my biggest advice is to build your network, get contacts, get on LinkedIn, get on Twitter, get your name out. In terms of juniors, maybe write a blog about what you've done on Hack the Box. I see loads of posts on LinkedIn and Twitter saying, "I've just pwned this box on Hack the Box." I mean, great, thumbs up, well done. But why not take that slightly take it further and say, well, this is what I learned. These are the tools that I needed to complete this machine. These are the stumbling blocks that I came up against, and this is how I overcame them. And I think that will give you a bit of an insight as to that person's mindset of how they approach things. And especially in pen testing, your methodology is your everything. It's how you do the job.
Not just Hack the Box. Like, let's say you pass OSCP. I think if you go on LinkedIn today, you scroll down, you'll see at least 1, maybe 2, 3, 4 people who've passed OSCP today.
Yeah.
And they put the badge on, OSCP, I've passed. Give me a clap or thumbs up or whatever. That's all they do. I know you can't go into detail about the exam itself. There's NDAs, there's stuff, but at least say, look, I learned. I passed OSCP. I struggled trying to do use this tool or trying to get past this area without going into too much detail, so you don't break your NDA. But if you can say that. Or on the flip side, I learned how to do this. I didn't know how to do it before, and I'm really chuffed, proud of myself. You'll get a lot more buy-in.
I think so. Absolutely. I mean, on the OSCP exam, everybody knows there's a buffer overflow. It's on every single exam. That's just common knowledge now. And I'm not breaking any NDAs saying that. And I think that is probably the part of the exam or the course where you could go into so much detail about everything that you're doing. I mean, the first time I did a buffer overflow, it probably took me about 3 hours. And then when I got to the exam, it was like 15 minutes. But it was that muscle memory. It's the methodology. It's because I took copious amounts of notes and, different, registers and, NOP sleds and assembly language and all of that. I think, like you said, Paul, it's great. You got your SCP, well done. I still have nightmares about that exam, and I got burnout for the second time in my life after that. I couldn't touch. I didn't want to see a terminal. I didn't want to see a machine. I didn't want to type. I felt physically sick, and it was bad. But I think if you go through that exam and the pain that it is for a lot of people, some people are finished in a few hours. I needed 22 hours to pass mine. I think if you go through that, it's going to make a lasting impression. And I was speaking to Dave Kennedy about a couple of hours ago about the exact same thing, and he still has nightmares about his exam. I think if you're going to go through that, you've got to share your experience, show that you're human, show that it's not just a flex on social networking or on your professional network. Show us what you've learned, show us your methodology, show us.
Just too much flexing.
It is something to be proud of,
Yeah.
It's not just about the badge, it's about the skills, it's about the knowledge that you've acquired to get that badge. I couldn't care less about your OSCP. What I want to know is, like, what skills did you get? Like, what did you learn?
And let's face it, if you're showing like, this is how I struggled and overcame it, you had that problem, but probably 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even tens, hundreds of people have that issue now. They're trying to do OSCP. And by commenting, one, you're bringing it to the forefront. Like, this is an area that you can work on. This is how I overcame it. So you're helping them. You're bringing people up. You might not be senior pen tester or whatever, or, the CISO of a massive company, but you're still being a community leader, bringing people up. And I think other line managers will see that and think, yeah, that person who said that or commented on that, I want them on my team, because not only have they passed the OSCP, they've revealed their mentality, how they process. So I know how to train them to further their pen testing career. And finally, that person's got empathy. That
Absolutely.
person can,
And you're also showing your communication skills, because at the end of the day, pen testing is about the report. The client doesn't care usually, unless you're talking to the CISO or, the CTO, but, they don't really care about the technical side of things. But when you're giving a debrief to, C-level staff, you need to get across business impact, all sorts of things. And I think writing a blog is a really good way to get across that you are a good written communicator, at least. I think just on top of your original question, advice to juniors, if you're already working in a setting and you want to go to that senior level, be proactive, listen to the seniors or the principal tester on your team, ask for more work if you can, if you've got the bandwidth to do it, if you've got the energy to do it, show that you want to step up and take that step into the senior role. But I think in terms of, if you're not in a role at the minute, if you're an aspiring junior, definitely build that network on LinkedIn, get in some Discord groups, comment on stories on LinkedIn, get your name out there. Just show that you are more than 4 letters. I mean, we talk about OSCP. It is a little bit of a gateway certification. In my opinion, it's we could probably talk at length about this for the time we've already discussed. I think there are better certifications out there that assess your real world skills, shall we say?
Like CEH.
Maybe not that particular one. Actually, funny thing about it, I did the CEH practical and I managed to do it in 3 commands, answer all 20 questions using 3 commands. So probably not the most real life applicable.
Unfortunately, your job would be very easy if it was.
It would be really easy if you could just run 3 Nmap scans against 3 targets. But I really recommend the eLearn Security. They've got some really hands-on and I would say more real world applicable certifications. There's also a pen tester lab. There's loads out there. I know we've
shop around.
Shop around, see what's out there, and learn away.
Yeah, and if you're interested in networking and stuff, JJ and I did a whole video just on networking.
Yeah.
I can link it in the comments. It's not a problem.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. I've run out of questions. Does anyone in watching have any questions for Shaun?
Maggie said hi. Hi, Maggie.
Said hi. Hi,
hello, Maggie. Happy
Looks
to
like
answer
no.
any questions. Any questions at all? Out the box, pen testing. Also, grade
How
8
is
is
Shaun so good looking? Yeah, any questions?
Dear me.
Where'd you get your hair cut?
My hairdresser's called Chloe. Favorite bit of pen testing?
Ted Ting.
Tetting. That moment when you've run a tool and you spot a way to get further in the campaign. So a recent test I did, I ran a tool called Bloodhound, which, you know, if you're a pen tester, it's your bread and butter, and saw the results of that. And I knew, yes, that's what I'm doing next. That's where we're going. And when that works, it's not necessarily popping a domain admin shell, but it's just finding that next step to get to where you need to be, which is good. And then obviously popping a shell as domain admin, that's always a get up and, you know, high fives all around. That's pretty damn nice.
Yeah, but just having a path so you know what to do, or it works basically. It's something that works.
Yeah. I mean, you know, playing Hack the Box is great for honing your skills, but you know, in terms of real life applicability, it doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes you've got to really dig deep and bring out some techniques or tools that you've not used before or not used in a while.
Especially if
And
it's been pen tested before, because that's quite common that
yeah,
you
absolutely.
follow on
So,
either from a colleague or a peer in industry. So, yeah. What's your favorite technique? Ha ha ha.
I'm not answering that. I'm not answering that. I refuse.
No comment. No comment. I think that just about wraps it up, though. So thank you very much for joining me, Shaun.
No problem.
I will
Thank you very
stick
much
this
for having
on
me.
YouTube, so just be aware of that. And yeah, thank you for joining us.
Anytime.